Okay, Rebbe's Maamarim Nilo Daidik Kuntreise Chelik Dalet Pei Shin Samaches in top of the page in middle of a Zion. Okay, the Rebbe is explaining that through this, that the Yud Gimel Midas HaRachamim elevate the person, they wake him up. In other words, as the Rebbe explained, the essence of every Jew is that they're going to be connected anyway. This that the Melech comes into the Sada is only to stimulate it. But it's not that the king is awakening it from above, because that's the nature of every single Jew. He's just removing, so to speak, the concealments. So through this, the Rebbe is explaining that Yud Gimel Midas Rachim become better, become greater. Why? Because the whole purpose of all the revelations, not only the physical world was created for the Yidden, Bereishis, Bishvil Yisroel, Shnikarom Reishis, like the Rashi at the beginning of the Chumash says. So not only is the physical world created for Yidden, all these spiritual emanations, starting from the highest of levels, was all created for the Yid. So therefore, when the Yud Gimel Midas Rachim Elul stimulate the Jew to become closer to Hashem, that makes it fulfill its mission of why Hashem made those emanations. It's all for the sake of the Yid. And then he says, that's the level, he said that the Pasuk Melech Basad Neva, that the king, so to speak, is bound to the field, meaning the king, as great as the king is, he still needs the field to give him the food, to make him exist, and so on. He has to live from the field. And he said that this is what we're in the middle now. The Rebbe is explaining there's two levels of a field. There's the field of Esav ish Soda, and then you have the Soda of Kedusha. And he says that's the thing, that even the Jews that are found in the Midbar, but through this that the king comes to them, and they're in the Midbar, in other words, like we mentioned yesterday, the fact that the Jews are in the Midbar, far away from Hashem, brings out the ultimate greatness of a Jew just because he's a Jew. In other words, when a Jew does Torah mitzvahs, so then the Torah mitzvahs is what's connecting him to Hashem. You don't see the uniqueness of the mere fact that he's a Jew. When a Jew is in the Midbar, not only in field, but like we learned in Midbar, so then this reveals the real greatness of the Jew, that he's connected just because he's a Jew. And in the top line of Shin Samaches, Ka'idei HaTshuva di Yisrael, through the level of tshuva that he does, Shahoyu b'tchila b'tachas harichuk, that initially they were very far from Hashem, they're in a Midbar. Miskala Yis Rapnim is the Yisrael. This causes the greater revelation of the real essence of the Jew, Sheretzein Moamiti, that the real will of the Jew, even at the time of the sin, in other words, while he's sinning, like Chassidus always quote the Gam b'shas hachet haisa ba'amna itay, that even while the Jew is sinning, Gam b'shas hachet, not only Yafa Pishachot Yisrael, that even while the Jew is sinning, at that time he's connected to Hashem. Like the Rambam writes, the Yitzhahar is forcing them to go against the will. Like the Tzemach Tzedek explains on the Pasuk. That's in this week's Parsha. It says like this. This week's Parsha talks about a guy finds a girl in the field and he rapes her, so you don't do anything to the girl because she was innocent, she was forced. So the Pasuk says the expression like this: Ki basada mitzah, he found her, she was found in the field. Tzaka anaida, the girl is screaming and nobody hears because it's not in the city. So Tzemach Tzedek explains this refers to the neshama. Tzemach Tzedek explains Gam kshanaido b'nitzada, that ki anaida basada, the neshama, naida, the woman, right, the wife, that's the yidden. Basada mitzah, that even while the neshama is in the field, tzaka, the neshama is crying out to Hashem. In other words, even when the neshama is besada dul umezah, it's in the field of evil, not the field of kedusha, the field of evil. You say to me that godem sha'is ace of each sada. Not only that, that in the field, Esav, in other words, the guy that rapes her, is the level of Esav that grabs her. Even then, the will of the neshama is in kedusha. Why? And the neshama is screaming on the fact that Esav, the man of the field, is grabbing her. And this is another interesting thing that Rebbe is explaining. The pasuk says like this: Ki basadim mitzah, he found her in the field. Tzaka anaira, the girl is screaming, ve'ein meshiala, and nobody's helping her. But remember, we learned already, ein also is the level of ayin. Remember, ein mazel Yisrael, Chassidus explains ayin mazel Yisrael. The level of chokhmah that comes from the level of ayin, Yesh mi'ayin chokhmah ma'ayin timatzei. Ayin is a level of kesed, higher than ishtalshlis. Chokhmah begins ishtalshlis. Chokhmah ma'ayin timatzei. Ayin is a level of Yud Gimel Midas Rachman, the level of kesed. Right? So he says like this: Ki basadim mitzah, the neshama of a Jew is in the level of field, midbar, to the extent that Esav, evil, is grabbing her to sin. Saka naida, but even then the girl screams because the neshama doesn't want to sin. Va'ayin meshialo, through this level of screaming, i.e., the level of tshuva, not a meshial, ayin meshial, the level of Yud Gimel Midas Rachman, the level of Keser, that is what's saving her. That's the level of tshuva. Tshuva reaches a level higher than world, like we learned countless times. That's why tshuva can undo the past. Either past is past, how could tshuva undo the past? Because tshuva reaches a level higher than world, higher than time and place. So he says, Shenim shcho yeshua mechinas ayin, shelamayla meishtalshlis, it comes in the level of ayin, which is higher than worlds. V'kiv and shegilu rotzen apnim b'di Yisrael. And therefore the revelation of the real greatness of the Jew, just because he's a Jew, because he's rooted in the essence of Hashem, is ayidei tshuva, the Yisrael. There's a dafka through the level of tshuva of Yidden, shahoyu betchila besada dolom ezeh, when Nishi was in the level of midbar, not only sada but midbar. L'chein ha'ilu shenase b'yid gimel midas rachmin. Therefore, when the Yud Gimel Midas Rachmin are revealed in the world, who are they primarily affecting? They are primarily affecting the Jews that sinned and need to do tshuva. Because what is Yud Gimel Midas Rachmin? Yud Gimel Midas Rachmin reveal the greatness of the Jew because he's a Jew. Period. The Melech comes out into the field, and it does it. It's not a revelation from above. It's a stimulus from above that gets the Jew in the Sada to realize how far they are, and therefore they're willing to go out to meet the king, meaning meet Hashem. That is basically the concept of tshuva. Therefore the month of Elul is the level of tshuva. But at that time is the revelation of Yud Gimel Midas Rachmin. So the level of Yud Gimel Midas Rachmin, which is revealed in the month of Elul, is primarily for the people to do tshuva. And therefore he says, the unique, like the Rebbe explained before, because the purpose of Yud Gimel Midas Rachmin, because of the Jew, so when it affects the Jew, the Yud Gimel Midas Rachmin will become greater. What? Because this, that the Yud Gimel Midas Rachmin are there to awaken the Jew, is primarily by awakening those people that were far.
When you do the right thing, the Rebbe gets.
Yeah, but it has nothing to do with this, but yeah, that's true. You bring the Shem and the Moshe Rabbeinu. Without Moshe Rabbeinu becomes greater. Yeah, but here that the Rebbe is explaining that the ultimate purpose of the ultimate revelations of godliness is not for those people that are close. It's on the contrary. Where do you see the ultimate purpose of godly revelation to stimulate the Jew is primarily on Jews that are far. Jews that are close don't need it. Dafka the richuk, dafka the distance, is what causes the person to become awake. So the ultimate purpose of Yud Gimel Midas Rachmim is for the level of tshuva. I mean, according to Chassid and Zohar, that even tzaddikim have to do tshuva, because tzaddikim don't have this level of tshuva, of longing to Hashem. So normally, what he's talking about here, normally the longing to Hashem comes from distance. The Chiddush Mashiach Lasavet Tzadikai B'Tiyufta, that even tzaddikim who are not far be'etzem, they're not far, but when they realize how great Hashem really is, so no matter how great they are, they're also far, and that's going to stimulate them to become even closer to Hashem, not because they're in Midbar, they're not in Midbar, but even the level of Ir HaMelech is also nothing compared to the Rebbe. So the whole purpose of Yud Gimel Midas Serach, like we mentioned yesterday, what does Alter Rebbe say in Tanya? You can't say that the ultimate purpose of creation is the spiritual realms. Because Atzilus is only a revelation. Revelation is automatically limited. No matter how great the revelation is, even Tehu, Tikkun, Ak, all those revelations are only revelations. This touches and reveals the essence of the Jew, which is essence to essence. Like it says, Rabbi Rashab said the expression, there's God and there's Jew and there's nothing else. Because the Jew's essence is Hashem, and that Einay Mulvadei. So neshama, not the way neshama comes through the world, that's the whole story, but the way the neshama's essence is revealed by Melech Basada, i.e., the revelation of Yud Gimel Midas Rachmim. The king's not in the field physically, obviously, right? So we learned the king in the field. Alter Rebbe says the revelation of Yud Gimel Midas Rachmim. So that revelation of Hashem to stimulate us to wake up, that is the ultimate purpose of that revelation, is to hit people that are in a midbar, that they should come closer to Hashem. And therefore the ultimate purpose of Dira B'Tachteinim is in this world, which is openly far from Hashem.
Absence make the grow
Huh?
Absence make the heart grow fonder?
Yes, abstinence makes abstinence makes the heart grow fonder. Yeah, because that's the ultimate thing.
But as you said, the distance
What?
The distance between us and the tzaddikim or the mediocre is so great to God that everybody can really long to become closer and has the potential of getting much closer to God, even the tzaddikim.
Correct. But the problem is, to give you a gashmistic marshal, it's not a great marshal for this, but a drug addict will only wake up when he hits rock bottom. Yes. Why? Why only rock bottom will wake him up?
If he comes out of it alive.
Because when you hit rock bottom, that's really the beginning is edged in the end is wedged in the beginning and the end. You have to hit the ultimate distance to realize that you're far.
Yes.
Until Mashiach comes, tzaddikim are not going to realize that, because they don't feel far. They feel connected. But when David HaMelech says, like we just mentioned, like we discussed many times, my soul is thirsty to, my soul is longing to you. Better see of oyev b'limoyim in a dry, desolate land without water. And then David HaMelech says, Kain bar kodesh chazisicha means halavai. Kain, the Chassidus interprets, halavai. It should only be that bar kodesh, when I'm back in the Beit HaMikdash, chazisicha should have the same longing to you. I should see you with the same longing than I have when I'm far. The desire for light is more when you don't have it than when you do have it.
Yes.
The desire for food or drink is more when you don't have it than when you do have it. Why? Because when you don't have it, then you feel the necessity of it more. So tzaddikim now are very close. If they're very close, they don't need it. They don't have that feeling. That's why about the Rambam says, that's why about Shiva is greater than a tzaddik. About Shiva is greater than a tzaddik because the longing to Hashem that about Shiva has, longing to Hashem that about Shiva has, a tzaddik doesn't have. At the time of the revelation of Mashiach, there'll be such a great super revelation of Hashem that even tzaddikim are going to wake up to feel how far they are from Hashem. Okay, so he says in Ches, that's what he says at the beginning. And the Rebbe asked a question at the beginning of the Maimer, how could Anila Deidi V'Deidi Li be the acronym of Elul when Deidi Li is Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur? So if you're saying it's an acronym of Elul, so then it's only Anila Deidi, because Deidi Li is Tishrei. So how can you have that? So the Rebbe said B'Kitzur before that in Elul there's also a level of a Deidi Li. So he says, Yeshleimar Shedeidi Li Shebetoy Rosh Tevis Elul, the Deidi Li of Rosh Tevis of Elul. Koi Be'ikar Ala Gilui the Yud Gimel Midas Rachme Elul is going on the Gilui of in Elul. Deidi Li is a revelation of the Yud Gimel Midas Rachme. But L'cheira, now the Rebbe is going to ask, then Deidi Li should be first. If a Deidi Li is the stimulus of the Jew, so L'cheira should be, you're late. Should be first Deidi Li, and then Anila Deidi. Even though the Gili of Yigim Mitzrachim of Elul is giving the ability for Anila Deidi. He says, in real terms, Anila Deidi, the Aveda of the person, is L'mayla Mideidi Li.
Again?
The Aveda of the Jew is infinitely greater than the revelation of Hashem. Okay, now a minute. The whole purpose of revealing Yud Gimel Midas Rachme is to wake up the person. Okay, the Rebbe is not done yet. There's a pasuk that says, Hashem says, I desire your doing. Hashem desires our doing. Hashem likes when we do it. The Gemara says an expression, and Chassidus brings it down a lot. Adam reitze bekaf shaloi mitisha kav mishal chaveirei. A person will rather have one measurement of what he accomplishes over 9 measurements that somebody else gives him. The Zohar says something you're given for free as a gift from above, so to speak, is called nama d'chsufa, shamed bread. When a person does something, it's their accomplishment. Hashem, for him to give us and for him to do, he said, is basically, I don't use the word worthless, but it doesn't do anything. What Hashem wants is we should accomplish. Because as the Rebbe is saying, and the Rebbe is going to continue explaining this, when we accomplish, when we do what Hashem wants us to do, then Hashem says, now it makes sense why I revealed what I did, and therefore the purpose of what I revealed comes into fruition, and therefore that becomes greater than before the Jew did it. And that's why only the Jew can do a dira b'tachtenim. The Malachim cannot do a dira b'tachtenim. Atzilus, Neshamis, not only Gan Eden, which is Bria, even the Neshamis, the way they are in Atzilus, cannot create a dira b'tachtenim.
Rome cannot do that.
Why can't they? Because you need dafka, a place which is empty and void openly from godliness, and then you can accomplish the mission of longing. Now, the Rebbe explains in Tanya how could it be possible that when a Baal Tshuva does a lofty level of Tshuva, the Gemara says in Yuma, the Averis nasli kazachias, the Averis become mitzvahs. How could that be? Okay, I understand. I made a mess. I got dirty, so to speak, through sinning. I can bring it to the washing machine. Okay, I can do tshuva. I'll clean it. But how can this stain become jewelry, an ornament? How can an aveda become a mitzvah? Right? Good question. So the Alter Rebbe explains, because a mitzvah means binding, tafsa v'chibur, binding and connection. Longing is a stronger binding and connection than if you're there. Somebody that you love, that you're with in the same room, there's no longing for them because you have them.
Correct.
It's called any ava b'tainugim.
Correct.
The ava, the love, abstinence makes the argo founder. When you're away, the distance, that bond is actually binding you together.
But there's some people who
The Rebbe explained once to somebody who lost a family member, a close family member, and they were very upset, and the Rebbe explained to them, picture you have a loved one, and they went to Europe. They went to Europe. You don't see them in front of your eyes. Do you love them any less?
No.
Depends. If it's your kid, you love them more because they're not home making you crazy. Okay, but you don't say, you don't start crying and sitting shiva because the guy went to Europe. The Rebbe said the neshama only went to a different place. Just like the kids in Europe, you don't see them. The neshamas in Gan Eden, it's the same neshama, they're still here. That shouldn't take away the bond, the connection, the relationship. No, the Rebbe told this to somebody who lost a family member. The Rebbe gave the dugma. Good morning. The Rebbe gave the dugma that it's the neshama going to a different place, so you don't physically see him. So what? That doesn't mean that love, then the existence is not there. It's there. It's just in a different place. So when the neshama has the longing because of the distance, so that actually is the concept of a mitzvah. Therefore, the aveda becomes a mitzvah because the longing binds it to Hashem more than the mitzvah does.
okay, sometimes some people are way out. I mean, they're out.
So those are the guys that come back even greater. Elul ben Dudaya, all those guys.
But they need something. They need something from Shamayim. Something's got to happen.
What stimulated Elul ben Dudaya? The Zaina made fun of him. A Zaina made fun of him, right? Of course, there was a Gilin Mumayla through a Zaina,
Right.
okay?
That's what I mean.
But there wasn't a stimulus of a Gilui of Elokus from above. You didn't see any Gilui of Elokus.
But what?
And no one. And then when he went to the mountain, remember we learned the story.
Yeah.
He went to the mountains. He went to the ocean, and everybody said basically go fly a kite. And he said, "I see it's only up to me." Rebbe Elazar ben Dudaya, that guy. He put his head between his knees and Yesh Kaina Elamid B'Shachas. What stimulated him?
That feeling that's inside.
But because he was so far, he felt so low. That means it's a gilui of super high. It's the essence. And like the Rebbe is saying here, the essence is felt more in the midbar than it is when you're not in the midbar.
When somebody hits the bottom of the pool, the forehead hurts a lot.
So,
So if somebody hits the bottom, very, very, very bottom, somebody's gonna...
yeah, but that's only if you're not comatose that you feel what comatose does. As long as you're alive, you feel the pain.
Yeah?
A dead person that falls to the bottom of the pit and bangs their head doesn't feel the pain. But because the Jew is never dead. A Jew is never dead.
The pinta is there.
The pintaleid is there. Okay, it's late. There's two aspects. One is the revelation from above to awaken the person, and the second thing is they say this the awakening that the Yid wakes up, that itself adds to the Yud Gimel Midas Rachmin. Okay, sit. Okay, it's late. You know what? That's it.
The story of the